Hey, everybody. It is Friday, June 6th. We've made it through another week here on the Mo News podcast. I'm Moshe Manunu.
And I'm Jill Wagner. This is the place where we bring you just the facts.
And we read all the news and read between the lines so you don't have to. And sometimes, Jill, we're refreshing Truth Social and X every minute.
Moshe, it's the story that keeps on giving. The bromance gone bad between Elon Musk and President Trump.
It was a bromance gone bad. That was like 2 days ago. Now it's like full-on thermonuclear war. We'll go through the latest, but Jill, as of this recording on Thursday, Elon's calling for Trump's impeachment, is retweeting photos of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. Trump is responding by calling for the end to all contracts for all of Elon's companies. I mean, this, to quote Anchorman, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, Moshe, let's get straight to the headlines here. We'll, of course, have the latest on this feud between Presidents Trump and Elon Musk. It is also decision month for the Supreme Court. Two big decisions out on Thursday, one about workplace discrimination and another ruling on guns. We'll walk through the decisions. Meanwhile, the Trump administration ends an emergency abortion requirement for hospitals, what that could mean for women's access to emergency care. Could there be some developments when it comes to a trade deal with China? President Trump seems to say yes. China, not so much.
Yeah, we'll tell you about the phone call between the two leaders yesterday.
Israeli forces recover the bodies of 2 hostages with U.S. citizenship still held in Gaza. And what will humans be like in 1,000 years? A historian has a surprising and perhaps disturbing answer if you are into humans.
Some uplifting stuff at the end of the podcast, Jill.
And it is Friday. Cheers to the freaking weekend, what we were watching, reading, and eating. Okay, Moshe, let's start with the feud between Presidents Trump and Elon Musk, the most powerful man in the world, Trump, versus the richest man in the world, Musk. And I gotta say, it is not pretty, but Moshe, it's hard to look away. Things have gone real south, real fast, to the point where Elon Musk is now calling for Trump to be impeached, and Trump's ally, Steve Bannon, wants Elon Musk deported.
Jill, we always knew this was going to end, right? Like, we talked about this in our 2025 preview podcast. Like, the question was, when will this end, the love affair between Trump and Elon? When and how? That's what we didn't know. Some people actually had pools. Some people are telling me, Jill, that they actually had June was the month they predicted it, and they're very excited about getting it right. Based on our predictions podcast, we went back, right? And I actually thought they might survive the year.
Moshe, you thought that they would get through 2025 because there was a lot riding on the relationship. And I was shocked at your prediction because you've got 2 men with 2 very big egos and very thin skin. But I happen to agree with you because the argument was that they both had a lot riding on this.
Right. And so some people were actually surprised it lasted as long as it did. We thought I think you went back and listened to our predictions podcast that we put out right before the new year. And I think I said there would be some drama, but they would make it through the year. It turns out not so much. There is definitely drama, and they did not even make it 6 months through 2025 here. But I didn't think we'd get to the point where we were refreshing X. I mean, literally, I'm refreshing it while we're talking here, Joe, because I have no idea what will come out next, because it was like, okay, Elon's going after the bill. Okay, Trump is like, I like my bill. Okay, and then today it became like, Elon has Trump. Well, you're going to go through all of this, but it just escalated to the point where Trump's threatening Elon's companies. Right now, Elon literally, as I speak, just like retweeted another post of Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, saying that's why the Epstein files are, haven't come out. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, Moshe, I'm waiting for them to do like your mama jokes at this point.
Well,
I'm not even joking.
Well, I mean, listen, he's like, Trump's causing a recession. I'm just going through these tweets. This is all in the past hour here as we're recording this. Some people asking, Jill, can we get them both in front of Andy Cohen?
Oh, that would be perfect. Like a reunion.
Special.
Yes.
Yeah.
The house husbands of the White House reunion. All right, a quick refresher. Yesterday, we said their bromance was officially over. We called time of death 1:30 p.m. Eastern time Tuesday, because that's when Elon Musk wrote on X that President Trump's big, beautiful bill was, quote, a disgusting abomination. At first, the White House was laughing this off, but on Thursday, the gloves were off. After meeting with the new German chancellor, President Trump took questions in the Oval Office, including about Elon Musk criticizing the president's budget bill. Moshe, I was watching this press conference, if you want to call it, or press availability in real time. And at first, Trump, it felt like was really being civil. At first, he said he was disappointed in Musk. Now, it wasn't that long ago that Musk was nicknamed the first buddy. Trump had appointed him to be the head of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Jill, they were hanging out Mar-a-Lago every weekend, having meals together. Trump was going to watch launches with him. They were hanging out on the White House lawn. They're hanging out in the Oval Office. Like, he had free reign over the place.
And it just ended about a week ago.
Not
even, right. So he said, look, Musk is just mad about the credit for electric vehicles going away. As we know, Musk's day job is that he is the CEO of the electric vehicle company Tesla, which has benefited from those subsidies. Trump also said Musk was mad because he didn't appoint Musk's pick to lead NASA, Jared Isaacman. Trump said, look, Isaacman's a Democrat, and that was the reason. And he also said Elon Musk had no problem with the budget plan when Musk was working in the White House. And then it kind of came up a little bit later in this press availability where Trump said Musk had Trump derangement syndrome. Take a listen.
He's not the first. People leave my administration and they love us. And then at some point they miss it so badly. And some of them embrace it and some of them actually become hostile. I don't know what it is. It's sort of Trump derangement syndrome, I guess they call it. But we have it with others too. They leave and they wake up in the morning and the glamour's gone. The whole world is different. And they become hostile. I don't know what it is.
And then to add to the drama, you've got Elon Musk watching this press availability and in real time tweeting his responses, basically going counterpoint with the president, saying, I don't care about the EV subsidies. He said he had never seen the budget bill until after he left the White House. And then he took another dig. He said Trump never would have won the election if it weren't for him. And he also said Democrats would control the House. We know Musk poured hundreds of millions of dollars into the 2024 election. But I guess those were the fighting words, Moshe.
Jill, if there's anything you don't do, if you don't want to raise Trump's ire, you do not take credit away from him on his wins. He wants credit for his wins. He wants nothing with any losses, right? But he wants credit for his wins. So to imply that he wouldn't have won without you, there's nothing more insulting you could say. And that's when I was like, oh, damn. That was before he said Trump needs to be impeached and replaced with J.D. Vance. That was before the escalation with Jeffrey Epstein. And I thought that was like, oh man, he's gone far here.
So then you've got President Trump jumping on his social media platform, Truth Social, to respond to Elon Musk, saying that the easiest way for the government to save money would be to cut Musk's government contracts. Also, that Elon was, quote, wearing thin and that Trump had asked him to leave the White House. So, Moshe, if the time of death of this relationship, as we called it, was Tuesday at 1:30 p.m., I think the point of absolutely no return was 3:10 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday when Musk tweeted in response, quote, time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein file. That is the real reason that they haven't been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. Of course, those are the president's initials. And then he wrote, mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. Moshe, some comparing this feud to Biggie Tupac.
That, by the way, ended with both of them dead, Jill.
Yeah, I mean, look, we didn't think this friendship, as we've said, was going to make it long term, but I don't think anyone thought it was going to get this ugly so quickly. I mean, it's evolved in like 24 hours here.
Jill, I woke up yesterday on Thursday morning and I was like, so one of you asked me about this on Instagram, and I was like, yeah, could this go the way of Zelensky, like after the fight in the Oval Office, where like at some point they do a phone call, let things cool off, they sort of kiss and make up, they don't love each other afterwards, but at least they're civil. But like, oh my God, like as we tape this on Thursday night, God knows what's going to get messaged overnight, because by the way, like we know this, and I talked to Speaker Johnson about this a couple months ago. Trump and Elon are both known to stay up till 1 or 2 in the morning. They're both also known to get up at like 5 or 6 a.m. So like we could sit here like just do a live podcast, Jill, if that was about like a live radio show in the morning, because like who knows what's going to be said in the next few hours here. But like one's calling for impeachment, end of government contracts, Epstein, like is there anything left? Like what else? What do they know about each other? I mean, by the way, they spent a lot of time together. Like I'm sure they know, like I'm sure they have bombs to drop on each other and one another and stories, and then there's going to be denials. Like, but the fact that like you have Steve Bannon telling Trump, deport the guy, and then Elon saying Trump should be impeached. Tariffs are causing recession. Oh, and then he also said, Jill, in response to Trump calling for the end of government contracts for Elon, he's like, okay, I'm canceling the SpaceX Dragon program now. The Dragon spacecraft, by the way, for those unfamiliar, has been relied upon by the International Space Station for supplying and operations. If Dragon goes away, which is what Elon declared around 4 p.m. yesterday, that means the U.S. and the International Space Station will have to depend on Russian rockets again. That's the whole thing. We've privatized our space industry. So how serious is that? There's going to definitely be some cooling off necessary here. This feels very much like Liberation Day tariffs. Like, we're going to 145% tariffs. Like, there will need to be a cool down at some point. People are already sharing with me Fox News clips where they're just like, can everyone calm down here? Like, we don't love this fight happening. Jill, also, I wouldn't have predicted this one, but Kanye has chimed in. Are you ready for this?
Oh, no.
Honestly, this would be the most refreshing tweet from Kanye West this year. Bros, please, no. We love you both so much. So Kanye
hates the Jews, but loves Elon Musk and Donald Trump.
I think he apologized for his Nazi anti-Semitism like last week. God knows, how serious we can take that.
Not accepted.
Not accepted by Jill. But Kanye West has said, bros, we love you so much. Like, can you please calm this down? So who is the person that can bring them together? Because this could keep getting uglier. This comes against the backdrop. This all started a couple days ago over the budget bill, which is having trouble in the Senate right now. Elon has effectively given permission to some Republicans to be more vocal about their issues with the bill and the spending in there. And so ultimately here, you have certain lawmakers who've gotten very close to Elon the past few months because you were supposed to really like Elon Musk. Jill, I remember being in a room with Speaker Johnson and some other Republicans a couple months ago where I was like, do you trust Elon with this? Do you trust Elon? They're like, yeah, Elon is so great and I've spent so much time with him. And I'm like, okay, are you sure? And they're like, yeah. Well, that's partially because Trump loved Elon Musk. And so now, in the whole, sort of watching the evolution of this and their own relationships and the fact that Elon has threatened various Republicans over time, and they know what Elon can do with his money with primaries and elections, they're going to have to figure out a way to tread carefully here between these two. So a lot of interesting implications, as much as, many of us popping popcorn and watching this and find this entertaining to watch. This does have real implications here, given the amount of power and control these two have, and it's a distraction from, clearly things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, as you point out, the backdrop here is that the president is trying to get his signature budget bill passed through Congress right now. And to your point, does Musk give cover to some Republicans who maybe weren't comfortable with the bill? Trump also wants to get Republicans to extend the debt ceiling. So Musk pulled up some old tweets from Trump, including one from 2013, in which Trump wrote, "I cannot believe the Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am a Republican and I am embarrassed." Well, fast forward, Trump now is president. And again, he is calling for the debt ceiling to be extended. So Musk wrote, "Where is the man who wrote these words? Was he replaced by a body double?" And then you've got right-wing political activist Laura Loomer, who we know has the president's ear. She wrote on social media, "I know lawmakers who are asking if they should side with President Trump or Elon." She says she's been on the Hill all day and that this is really all anyone is talking about.
So we're going to continue to watch this. Stay tuned to the Instagram account where I'm also trying to DJ the tweets, Jill, with my favorite breakup songs. There's a lot from Taylor, but
I mean, you could
Adele,
just do Taylor Swift.
I could just do Taylor Swift's breakup songs exclusively for the various tweets back and forth here. But we'll see how this all unfolds. And there are real implications here. One of the reasons why Elon was leaving the government was because his companies were like, hey, can you come back? Our stocks are down, and it has not been a very good time at these companies. So the thought was, well, Elon's going to leave politics for a while because it has not been good to his bottom line. He lost about $100 billion in personal value. Don't worry about Elon. He's still worth about $300 billion. But his stocks have fallen. And guess what? Implications for his stocks here have not been good. Getting in a fight with the president. Shares of Tesla fell 14%. Investors are very concerned about Trump threatening to pull government contracts for Musk's companies. And Tesla shares had rallied of late because they're like, okay, Elon's coming back. People are going to start to forget about all of that. It's going to be very interesting to see how this plays with the public. Just a lot of interesting implications here, Jill. How does Elon spend his money moving forward for midterms? How long does this fight last? Who will make peace? Will it be Kanye West? who is going to going to get these two sides to calm down? I guess the good thing is this is not an escalation with like a country with major weapons. It's an escalation with a business leader, but nonetheless a very powerful business leader.
Okay, time for the speed read from the New York Times. The Supreme Court on Thursday unanimously ruled in favor of a straight woman who twice lost positions to gay workers, saying an appeals court had been wrong to require that she meet a heightened burden in seeking to prove workplace discrimination because she was a member of a majority party. This is a case that was brought by Marlene Ames. She worked for the Ohio Department of Youth Services. After a decade there in 2014, she was the administrator of a program. 5 years later, she applied for a promotion. Her supervisors turned her down. They said she lacked vision and leadership skills. They eventually gave that position to a gay woman who had been at the department for a shorter time, and unlike Ames, did not have a college degree. And not long after denying her the new position, her supervisors removed her from her existing job. They told her that they had concerns about her leadership. They offered her a demotion that came with a substantial pay cut, and she was replaced by a gay man with less seniority. So Ames sued under a federal civil rights law that forbids employment discrimination based on, among other characteristics, sex.
So as of yesterday, before this ruling, nearly half of the federal appeals courts had required white people, men, and other members of majority groups to meet a more demanding standard, a higher standard, when they sued for workplace discrimination. Whereas if you were a member of a historically or traditionally disadvantaged group, Black, Latino, gay, women, you actually had to meet a lower standard to say that you're being discriminated against. So in eliminating this requirement now, the court is now saying that the federal civil rights law demanded equal treatment for all individuals, regardless of who you are, what gender you are, what race you are. And interestingly here, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, a liberal, wrote for the court, the standard for proving workplace discrimination under the law does not vary based on whether or not the plaintiff is a member of a majority group. She continues that by establishing the same protections for every individual, without regard to that individual's membership in a minority or majority group, Congress left no room for the courts to impose special requirements on majority group plaintiffs alone.
So the decision came 2 years after the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action and race-conscious admissions programs in higher education. So this ruling will place further pressure on employers and others to eliminate affirmative action and other initiatives that seek to provide opportunities to members of historically disadvantaged groups. Now to another court case from the Associated Press. All 9 Supreme Court justices agreed Thursday that Mexico cannot sue major American gun manufacturers over their weapons being used in crimes abroad, which will make it more difficult to hold gun makers accountable for violent crimes committed with their products. The Mexican government had argued that Smith & Wesson, Colt, and other companies knowingly allowed rogue dealers to sell large quantities of firearms to Mexican drug cartels.
So this was another unanimous ruling by the court. Elena Kagan, liberal, writing for the court, saying that the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, this is the 2005 federal law that's been on the books for about 20 years now, shields gun companies from legal liability, though she also acknowledged the broader problem of gun violence. Since 2018, more than 30,000 people a year have died in Mexico, much of it tied to drug cartels, many of those drug cartels using guns from the U.S. So the Mexican government was seeking up to $10 billion in damages here, arguing that gun companies in the U.S. basically aided and abetted illegal gun sales, and that means they should be disqualified from immunity under that 2005 law. Now, again, the court here saying unanimously, the liberals and the conservatives saying, nope. And also, you didn't provide enough details, Mexico, as to specifically what these gun manufacturers knew. But they did leave the door open, Jill, saying that Mexico might be able to sue wholesalers who might have greater knowledge of the actions of rogue dealers selling to the cartels. So one of the issues here was not just that these companies are protected under the law here in the U.S., but also specificity as to what they knew and how they're implicated here.
For Mo News, President Trump reversed a policy that required American hospitals to provide emergency abortions to women when they are necessary to stabilize their medical condition, even in states with strict abortion bans. The guidance from Biden's Department of Health and Human Services required that hospitals perform abortions if a woman was experiencing serious health complications. It was first issued to hospitals in 2022, in the weeks after the Supreme Court had overturned Roe v. Wade. The Biden administration argued that hospitals, including ones in states that had near total abortion bans, needed to provide emergency abortions under the Emergency Medical Treatment and Active Labor Act. The law requires that emergency rooms that receive Medicare dollars provide an exam and stabilizing treatment for all patients. Nearly all emergency rooms in the country rely on Medicare funds. The HHS guidance was a strategy that the Biden administration was using to preserve nationwide abortion access. But now HHS and the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, rescinded the Biden-era guidance, saying that they do not reflect the policy of this administration, the Trump administration.
So the impact of this, Jill, we're still digging into what this could mean here, because the statement did not say whether women in life-endangering scenarios would now be turned away for abortion access. But one of the challenges here and one of the concerns here is that when laws are left to the interpretation of individual hospitals and doctors, you get a lot of mixed results. And I should say results that not just mixed, but mixed meaning in some cases, they might turn some women away. And that's the big concern here among folks on the left and folks that believe that regardless of how you feel about abortion, women under no circumstances should be turned away from emergency medicine should they show up at the hospital. And that was one of the reasons the Biden administration had issued this guidance to hospitals. So abortion rights groups criticizing here, accusing Trump of walking back on campaign promises not to interfere with abortion access. Remember, he was trying to be very careful with abortion because he saw how the overturn of Roe v. Wade played nationally. Healthcare providers, again, could feel uneasy here if they practice in states that have severe abortion bans, and the state authorities, states attorney generals, might go after them. But other folks say that things will stay the same here. This didn't actually mean that much. The federal government, CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, saying they will continue enforcing the law here, including for identified emergency medical conditions that place the health of a pregnant woman or her unborn child in serious jeopardy. So we'll be looking out to see if anything changes here.
To some business news from the Wall Street Journal, President Trump spoke Thursday with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. He suggested after the call that one of the biggest sticking points in trade talks, which is the export of rare earth minerals critical to the U.S. auto industry, had been addressed. Trump called the conversation productive. He said both sides agreed to meet soon. And he also said that Xi invited him to visit China and that he invited Xi to visit the White House.
So the call here lasted about 90 minutes. As for Trump, he wrote on Truth Social, there should no longer be any questions respecting the complexity of rare earth products. Later telling reporters, we had a very good talk and we've straightened out any complexity. These are key. And Jill, we should note, rare earth minerals, China has a lot of them under the ground there. So the fact that there's any sort of question around China blocking them from us, that could have some real deal implications. And I think that's one of the things that Trump wanted to clear up with the Chinese here. So Trump striking a very positive tone out of this. China, though, a much less positive tone in its statement about a call here. They said that Xi told Trump that the U.S. should withdraw the negative measures it has taken against China already. The Chinese leader in their statement also, and they made a point here of saying that he told Trump that China always keeps its promises and a consensus was reached. And so both sides need to abide by it. And so it appears here the Chinese are like, yeah, no, it wasn't that great of a call. And we told Trump what we need from him.
I'm sure he's going to love that.
Well, his focus is on Elon right now.
Good news for China.
We began the week thinking, like, if you were to make a prediction, like whose relationship is worth, Trump and China or Trump and Elon? You would be like, oh, I'll take the Trump-Elon relationship over the Trump-China relationship. Today, I would take the Trump-China relationship over the Trump-Elon relationship.
All right, to the Middle East from NBC News. Israeli forces have recovered the bodies of two hostages with dual Israeli-U.S. citizenship, 70-year-old Judith Weinstein Haggai and 72-year-old Gad Haggai. They are a married couple who terrorists killed in the attacks on October 7th, 2023, and then took their remains to Gaza, where they have been held ever since. The Israeli military and Shin Bet, which is Israel's domestic security agency, recovered the bodies in a special operation.
So Weinstein Hagai and her husband were among 4 Israeli Americans whose bodies were still believed to remain in Hamas captivity, along with Itai Hen and Omer Nutra, still believed to be held in Gaza. The last living American was released last month. His name was Idan Alexander. And so, Jill, this now puts the remaining hostages dead and alive in Gaza at 56.
Okay, so we usually like to end the podcast, especially on a Friday, with something fun and light.
Which we'll do with like what we're watching and eating.
Right. Yeah. But Moshe, this was an interview that we both couldn't get enough of. Apparently, the end of humanity could be here sooner than expected. From MSNBC, historian and author Yuval Noah Harari saying that he believes humans in their current form will not exist in 1,000 years. On an episode of The Beat with MSNBC anchor Ari Melber, Harari discusses the rise of artificial intelligence and how humans will adapt to new technologies. He said humans absolutely will not be around in 1,000 years in their current form. He says if we survive for 1,000 years, we will change ourselves so radically that we will no longer be Homo sapiens. We will be something else. He actually says that could happen as soon as 100 years. Here is part of that interview, and I'm going to let it play a little bit longer because I think you have to hear it from him. I don't think I'm going to do it justice.
Given the technologies we are now developing, both AI and biotechnology, and also given the challenges we're facing, like climate change, I don't think that humanity in its present form can continue for 1,000 years. I don't think that even 100 years. Wow. And we will either change ourselves and our society in such a radical way that we will still have, successors, but they will no longer be Homo sapiens. The same way that we are different from Neanderthals and from chimpanzees. So whoever dominates this planet in 1,000 years or even 100 years will be very different from us Homo sapiens.
Moshe, 100 years, even 1,000 years. One of the things that we were talking about in our morning meeting on Thursday was that's nothing, right? Like we think about humanity ending potentially in 200,000 years, 1,000,000 years. We know we're not going to be here forever in this current form.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I would take the long, right? Like, ultimately, when the sun explodes 4 billion years from now, which is, the estimate, 3 or 4 billion, when the sun explodes, we're gone. We're goners. Hopefully, we figure out another place to go at that point. But 1,000 years, 1,000 years ago was, there was a king of England. There was a
right.
A lot of the world that we know today was habited at that point. We'd gotten to most of the islands of the Pacific and through most of the Americas, and we had built the Great Pyramid and in Greece and Rome, and a lot had already been accomplished in humanity as of 1,000 years ago. So the fact that 1,000 years from now, but it does show you how things are quickly speeding up. And that's been one of the themes recently when it comes to AI. We talk about the agricultural revolution happening 10,000 years ago, and the industrial revolution happening 150 years ago, and the internet revolution starting about 30 years ago. Now we're in the midst of the AI revolution, and things seem to be speeding up here. And so very much what he's talking about, we're talking about biotechnology and things like wearable tech that is already available, but that's a couple years from now. Well, decades from now, where are we at? Where are we at in terms of disease eradication? Where are we at in terms of building technology into our own bodies and our comfort level with that? There's a lot of big questions here, and Harari has been doing the big thoughts on that. Now, mind you, we only invented nuclear weapons also 70 years ago. And so far, knock on wood, we've been okay after creating weapons that basically could take out all of Earth and humanity. So let's hope that we can hold on to those. But there's implications here when it comes to AI, Jill, when it comes to AI getting smart enough to manipulate world leaders into doing things. AI is very powerful and will only get more powerful. And so if you have a single leader, say a country that doesn't have any checks and balances, especially dictatorships and authoritarian regimes, the leader starts to have a relationship with AI, and AI starts convincing a leader to do something through whatever means, it could have huge deal ramifications. Someone with nefarious goals could really influence things. And you already see AI videos and how good they're getting. So I think there's a lot of reason for pessimism. And I understand why Harari has gone there. Both how humans will start to use technology for good and start to basically no longer be Homo sapiens because we start to install technology in ourselves. But beyond that, AI's ramifications for democracy, for governance, for trust in society, huge questions. For those of you who haven't read it, it's been a bestseller for several years now. But Sapiens, which does the history of humanity until now, this is a 2014 book, so this is pre-AI really. Harari is the author of that. So it takes you back to the beginning of civilization and how we evolved as humans. Then he's got another book, Nexus, that came out more recently. And so if you're looking for just a good grasp, a 10,000-foot view of humanity, those books will give it to you.
And MSNBC actually linked to the full interview, which lasted about an hour, and I linked to it in our show notes. It is worth a watch. I was reading some of the comments, and people were like, you know what? It was nice that a host actually read the book, and you could tell when they were talking that Ari Melber was familiar with it. Moshe, like when you do interviews and you're very well read on the topic.
Thank you. One of the people who reinforced it to me is actually Gayle King. I worked with her at CBS Morning Show, and people were always like amazed and surprised that she actually read the book, and she would have Post-it notes on pages, and she would talk to the authors beforehand, because most TV hosts, folks, don't read the books, don't watch the movies before they interview someone. They might get a couple questions from a producer. We've both been producers. Hey, what should I ask this guy? This, that, and the other thing. But like, she always made a point of reading the book, and I think that it makes a difference. And sometimes I'll begin an interview with somebody like, well, did you actually read it? I'm like, no, I did. Like, I have a question about page 70.
And I'm sure they appreciate it. So it just changes the nature, I think, of the interview. Okay, speaking of reading, it is Friday. Cheers to the freaking weekend. Time for what we are watching, reading, and eating. Moshe, what are you watching?
Jill, it is officially, I feel old already, Hamilton is turning 10 years old this year. And so the Tonys are Sunday night. So I'll be watching the Tonys, and the original Hamilton cast is reuniting on the Tonys. So I'll be looking out for that. What are you watching?
Okay, so in addition to watching that interview with Ari Melber and Harari, I also watched a really good news story from CBS that I'm going to link to as well. It's called How a Digital Detox Impacted Del Oro's Softball Team. So the girls on this team in California agreed to do a digital detox, meaning that they swapped their smartphones for flip phones. Not only did they play better than ever, but one of the girls agreed to do a brain scan before the detox and then after. And there were actually noticeable changes in her brain after doing the detox, after just not having a smartphone attached to her all day. More blood was flowing to areas of her brain that were responsible for decision making. So I think it was just a really fascinating look at what can happen if people, especially young people, put their phones away. All right, Moshe, what are you reading?
Jill, based on that last conversation, I'm picking up, I never finished Yuval Harari's Nexus, so I will finish that.
I was thinking the same, actually, but I have not started it. So I have to, you're ahead of me.
We're going to try to reach out to him and see if we can get him on the podcast. I think it would make for a fascinating conversation, mind-blowing conversation. Jill, what are you reading?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record, especially after what I'm watching, but I'm reading an article in the Washington Post called Parents Are Discovering the Secret to Keeping Kids Off Smartphones. And the secret is, in case you're not going to read it, that they can't do it alone, that you need other people in your kids' friend group to also agree not to be on smartphones.
Yeah, this is what we've heard from a lot of parents, which is like, I need rules from the school for all the kids because it's hard to be the parent that makes different rules for my kid. Or in this case, outside of school too, ensuring all the parents in the friend group keep similar rules.
And Moshe, our favorite topic, what we're eating. I'm a little jealous of you. Tell us about what's coming up.
I am going on a trip next week, Jill. I'll be here for the Monday podcast and the Tuesday podcast. But early Tuesday morning, Alex and I will be leaving for Japan for about 2 weeks. So I'll be eating my way through Japan. And so I'm very excited about that. That's what I'll be eating. I'll be eating everything Japan has to offer as we make our way there. And so early heads up to all of you. And thank you, Jill, for handling the reins in my absence, but we're very excited about this trip. It's been very long planned.
Well, much deserved, Moshe. So I hope you enjoy your time off. I will mention, actually, in terms of what I am eating, coincidentally, I'm taking a trip, but much closer to home and much shorter.
Not Japan?
Not Japan. Not even off Long Island. I'm going to the North Fork of Long Island for just a couple of nights for a very quick getaway. The food in the North Fork, as you know, is amazing. And as soon as we wrap up this podcast, I'm going to text your wife, Alex, for some recommendations.
Yeah, she made a whole map, but we got married out there a few years ago. So we have a whole map of the places that we love out there.
So as you eat your way through Japan, I will be eating my way through the North Fork and maybe drinking my way through the North Fork, where there's some very good vineyards.
Much more convenient and more affordable, Jill.
Yeah, driving distance. It helps. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to the Mo News podcast. What a week. If you like what you hear, please share this with your friends. It will help us grow. Follow us and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And as always, we ask that you give us a nice review in the App Store because those reviews really do help us.
Reviews matter. We appreciate all of you. Also, thanks to the folks at Walmart for letting me use their radio studio, podcast studio this week. That's where I'm coming to you from if you're watching on YouTube. And you're like, where are you, Mosh? And I was like, oh, this is the Walmart podcast studio here in Arkansas. So we'll have more on that. If you're a premium listener, you will have gotten the full conversation already yesterday with Dan Bartlett, the EVP of Walmart. For the rest of you, we will put that out over the weekend or early next week. A reminder, if you're a premium Mo News member, you get all the conversations first, a lot of exclusive behind-the-scenes content. So look out for that. And Jill, I'll see you next week, ever so briefly before I make my way across the Pacific.
I'm not ready to do our goodbye yet, Moshe. We'll do it next week before you go.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to the Mo News podcast. Have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed.